All right, guys, we got a big match confirmed for a future AEW Dynamite episode. We also have a current champion in question. This is the summary and analysis for the September 18th episode of AEW Dynamite. So let's get into it, guys. We don't have the most interesting, the most fun start to this episode of AEW Dynamite, but nonetheless, it was just fine. We had a highly anticipated match, quote unquote, highly anticipated match. It was Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho, a match that was best seen in 2020. The Mimosa Mayhem match was awesome in 2020 at the All Out pay per view, I believe. But nonetheless, here we are 4 years later having this match on Dynamite. And I'm not being negative about it at all. I'm not trying to complain. It's awesome. In fact, one thing you could really see is how much Orange Cassidy has progressed over the past few years. You see, when Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy met in the ring in 2020, Jericho was the vet and Orange was the rookie, and Jericho was totally leading Orange Cassidy, who was learning and growing from his feud with Chris Jericho. Now it feels like Orange Cassidy is totally leading Chris Jericho in the match. It's just crazy to see how far he's come as a performer, as a wrestler. So, nonetheless, guys, you see Big Bill get a cheap shot on Cassidy during the match, right? The conglomeration evens the odds. And then to finish the match, Chris Jericho plans to use a roll of quarters, but OC swipes it from Jericho, hits the ropes, and then hits Jericho with the orange punch, holding that roll of quarters, and gets the 3 count. Now, Orange Cassidy has defeated Chris Jericho, and we'll see where this goes. Honestly, if they were to end the feud right there, I'd be okay with it. But nonetheless, guys, wrestling doesn't have an off season, so I'm not here to complain about this at all. In fact, there's another feud that we're going to talk about in this show that I feel the same way about. I feel like it's a waste of time essentially, but when you're in a program, when you're in a industry like professional wrestling, you're going every week. So at the end of the day, I also kind of get it. So don't get it confused for like me complaining too much. Just take it as it is. I'm keeping it real. Is Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho in 2024 very entertaining? I'm not going to say it's not entertaining. So that tells you where I'm at with it. We then get a scene and we get the Blackpool Combat Club calling out Wheeler Yuta. They have an open challenge coming up for AEW Dynamite Grand Slam next week. And they're saying, Wheeler Yuta, are you going to be in our corner? Are you going to defend the championship with us? We're World Trios champions at the end of the day, so we're calling you out. Are you going to be on our side to defend these championships? And we don't know. We'll find out next week at Dynamite Grand Slam, and we'll find out who is going to challenge the Blackpool Combat Club for the AEW World Trios Championship. We get to our second match, which is Hook taking on JD Inc. Never heard of JD Inc.? I know, me neither. Anywho, Hook gets a quick submission against JD Inc. with the Undisputed Kingdom on commentary. And this is ultimately leading to a match between Hook and Roderick Strong. Going to be pretty solid, going to be pretty good. Hook can learn a lot from Roderick Strong the way that he just learned quite a bit from Chris Jericho over about a 3-month feud, 4-month feud. So they're pairing Hook with guys that he can learn from. And Roderick Strong is special. Roderick Strong has some intangibles that are unique to only Roderick Strong, in my opinion. So if you go ahead and have Hook and Roderick Strong work together a lot, the young wrestler Hook will learn a ton. Nonetheless, guys, let's move on to our third match. You look at this AEW Dynamite on paper, and it doesn't seem as entertaining as I actually thought it was while I was watching it. Nonetheless, guys, I think the highs are highs in this AEW Dynamite episode. And ultimately, was there a lot of filler? Was there a lot of slow things in the show? Yeah, probably. But nonetheless, I was entertained, especially by this next match, which maybe a lot of people didn't appreciate, a DQ finish in AEW. Hey, they got to do it every once in a while, and this was that every once in a while. We saw Mariah May and Serena Deeb team up to take on Queen Aminata and Yuka Sakazaki. And of course, Mariah May was totally focused on herself, not focused on the match at all. There was a point where Serena Deeb went to tag Mariah May in, and she was completely caught posing in front of the camera, not even on the ring apron, just posing for the camera with the championship, completely distracted. Perfect for the Mariah May character, of course. And then she tags herself in right when Serena Deeb swings the momentum and Mariah May gets to work. But nonetheless, Mariah May ends up cracking Yuka Sakazaki with the championship belt, ending the match in a disqualification to a scene of boos. It was all right. Next, man, we get a backstage scene of Mina Shirakawa confirming that she will return to AEW, but she does hint that she doesn't like the person that Mariah May has become. So, will they be friends or will they be foes? Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa. We'll find out sooner than later with this confirmation that Mina is coming back to AEW. We also get a informational historical segment on Nigel McGuinness, specifically Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson. And we actually get some technical difficulties before this, but nonetheless, it's really interesting because you get that essence of the old Ring of Honor as Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson were a humongous feud in the old days of ROH. And it's cool to see AEW utilizing that to tell the story between Danielson and McGuinness. Of course, I do think in general AEW can do a better job of channeling that classic Ring of Honor spirit. But this is good. This is a good way to do it, right? Bring the nostalgia. You have Nigel McGuinness wrestling for the first time in several years, and he's taking on Bryan Danielson. Blood feud. 20 years in the making next week on AEW Dynamite. Very cool. Very cool. It just makes me think, like, I think AEW can do a much better job honoring the spirit of ROH. But unfortunately, I don't think they do. I think they can learn to do so and overall just fix what they got going on with Ring of Honor. But no, they're not there yet. This is a step in the right direction, a small step in the right direction. And I hope that they continue to take steps in the right direction. Next, man, we get the Blackpool Combat Club entering the ring through and making their entrance through the crowd. And they're attacked by Private Party and Commander, who are returning the favor from last week. If you don't remember last week on AEW Dynamite, Private Party and Commander attacked the Blackpool Combat Club. And now these guys are returning the favor, attacking BCC. I think I messed that up, right? BCC attacked them during their entrance, and now these guys are attacking BCC. Anywho, man, we see Jon Moxley break Isaiah Cassidy's hand with a mallet. Isaiah Cassidy takes a mallet to the hand, and he ultimately gets his hand broken on AEW Dynamite. And then we get a Darby Allin run-in, and that's just building anticipation to next week's match between Jon Moxley and Darby Allin. The winner will face Bryan Danielson at WrestleDream in Seattle. Who's going to win that match? We'll find out. A highly anticipated match in my eyes, right? Do we get Seattle versus Seattle in Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley? I mean, Darby Allin versus Bryan Danielson, or do we get Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley? We'll find out. And then we get to what's arguably match of the night again. I gave Ricochet the match of the night last week. Do I give it to him this week? Yeah, by a pinch, because I do think the main event was pretty dang good. These last two matches on this episode of AEW Dynamite really made the episode for me. I know there was a lot of filler, and I know there was a lot of build, but nonetheless, these last two matches on the card, on the show, good stuff. We get Ricochet versus the Beast Mortos, as Mortos gets gassed early on by just being in the ring with Ricochet. Ricochet is quick, he's speedy, he's agile. Anybody would get gassed in the ring with that guy. But Mortos is able to flip the momentum when he reverses a Senton Suicida into a powerbomb onto the apron in what looked like a nasty, painful spot. And that was probably the biggest, most painful spot of the match. But I don't know. They pulled out some good stuff. Like, this was a really good match. I don't think a lot of people are going to talk about how good of a match this was, man. Ricochet and the Beast Mortos went at it on Dynamite, right? So then we get to a Tope Suicida botch that leads to a power bomb being reversed into what looked like a Canadian destroyer of sorts onto at ringside. Crazy. I'm even losing my head trying to explain it. Like AEW really does this out here. Is it safe wrestling? Is it protecting your stars? No, I personally do not think it is. Is it entertaining? Yes, I will say that. One of the last cool spots in this Ricochet versus Mortos match is Mortos pressing Ricochet, both men at the top rope, and coming down hard back into the ring. Nonetheless, guys, Ricochet is able to get the victory here, but I do think I gained a lot of respect for the Beast Mortos in his one-on-one match with Ricochet. Like, I really see him. He was working, and Ricochet's been working at AEW Dynamite week in and week out. So there's no doubt about that, man. And with these wins stacked for Ricochet, he now confirms that he has an international championship match against Will Ospreay in 2 weeks' time. That is how you keep the momentum. That is great. That is great. In 2 weeks, we will see Ricochet versus Will Ospreay for the AEW International Championship. And we will also build to Wrestle Dream. Momentum secured. Good job, AEW. Let's get into these last two segments. Like I said, guys, that Ricochet versus Mortos match was awesome. Main event is awesome. But we got one more thing before we get there. We got Tony Schiavone interviewing Hangman Adam Page. And it's not long before this aggressive side of Hangman Adam Page gets a little intense towards the interviewer, Tony Schiavone. Before he's able to even do anything, though, Jeff Jarrett's music hits, and he gets whooped by Hangman Adam Page for the most part. And then Jeff Jarrett confirms that somewhere down the line, the last outlaw, Jeff Jarrett, will take on Hangman Adam Page. Listen, when I talk about feuds that are kind of boring, I do think that this feud between Jeff Jarrett and Hangman Adam Page is better for Jeff Jarrett than it is for Hangman Adam Page. But nonetheless, I'm going to try to stay positive because wrestling does not have an off season, like I said. Do I want to see Jeff Jarrett taking on Hangman Adam Page? Honestly, no. I think the momentum that Hangman has can be used for bigger and better things. And I'm sure it will be after this feud with Jeff Jarrett. But listen, man, I can't help but feel like unless they go deathmatch on us, it's not really going to do a lot for Hangman. It's going to do a whole lot for Jeff Jarrett, who doesn't need much, man. He's in his elder years. I respect Jeff Jarrett, and sure, he's been very entertaining for several years, since I was a little kid, since you were a little kid, even if you're in your 30s and 40s. I'm just saying, man, don't put out the fire, man. There's a fire within Hangman right now after finally beating Swerve. Don't put out the fire, man. Don't take risks. Make him a top star again. He is a top star. Don't get it twisted. But send him to the stratosphere again. Like, don't mess around with Jeff Jarrett right now, man. There's situations that call for things like this, and I think Hangman's momentum does not call for a feud with Jeff Jarrett right now. I think it's potentially too harmful. They got to go deathmatch on this to swing my opinion. But then again, that's what it is. It's just an opinion. I'm just a person. So if you think Hangman versus Jeff Jarrett is perfect right now, good on you. Like I said, I don't think this is a deal breaker at all. I just think you could do more. I think better is deserved here. And I'll stand by that. But like I said, my mind can be changed. Let's say they cook in the first match, or let's say they jump right into a death match and make this a quick 4 to 6 week feud, then have some sort of awesome match at Wrestle Dream. I can be convinced that I'm wrong. I can be proven wrong, is what I'm trying to say. Let's get into the main event. We got Will Ospreay and the Don Callis family taking on the Elite. So let me make that clear. That's Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, and Konosuke Takeshita taking on Kazuchika Okada and the Young Bucks. And this is perfect, right? Because next week we have Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher taking on the Young Bucks for the AEW World Tag Team titles. And then somewhere down the line, we're all but confirmed to get Konosuke Takeshita versus Kazuchika Okada for the Intercontinental Championship. So it only makes sense to have a 6-man tag team match in this main event of Dynamite. And let me say it. This was as fun as a 6-man tag team match can possibly be. Yeah, It was really fun. Say what you want about the Young Bucks and Okada, they deliver when the bell rings. They deliver. Same goes for Will Ospreay and Konosuke and Kyle Fletcher. Like, these guys are known to deliver when the freaking bell rings. So this was a super fun 6-man tag team match. No negatives here, honestly. I know I've been a little negative, but we got to hold AEW accountable. That's the only way that they're going to continue to grow. And they've been doing a great job over the past few months. So I don't get it twisted, man. I love AEW right now. I just want to hold them to a high standard because they want to operate at a high standard. This main event was good. We got an Ospreay and Okada tease early on before Takeshita tagged himself in. And this rubbed Ospreay the wrong way. So Ospreay and Takeshita are not happy with each other. Then Takeshita shakes off a double super kick later on the match and delivers a double clothesline to the Young Bucks. I thought that was an awesome spot. There were some spots in this match that I don't even know how to explain here. Like, don't get me wrong, I do my best to use the terminology of in-ring wrestling, but like I said, there was a particular spot where one of the Young Bucks hit a double stomp onto Ospreay, and that comboed into a power bomb off the middle of the top rope. I hope I said that well. But like I said, it was just such a unique spot, in my opinion, such an entertaining spot, such a oh shit moment that it's kind of hard to explain. I didn't know how to put it in my notes, but I think the way I explained it right there was pretty decent, to be honest. So that was a good ass spot. There were some good spots here, man. Fun wrestling. We get Kyle Fletcher pinning one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions to win the match. Will Ospreay, Konosuke Takeshita, and Kyle Fletcher defeat the Elite. I can make a rhyme anytime. Oh my goodness. Anywho, as the show closes out, the United Empire logo flashes. As if you remember, Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, as well as many other people, were part of the United Empire faction in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So we get Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher putting up the United Empire sign. United Empire logo hits the Tron. That's how we close out the show this week. All leading up to AEW Dynamite Grand Slam next week. Well, we're going to have a good old time as the Young Bucks defend the AEW World Tag Team titles against Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. Or shall we call them the United Empire? Good episode. Some filler? Yes. Fun filler? Yeah. I'll say the last hour was pretty damn solid, though. And I know I talk a lot of smack about this Hangman versus Jeff Jarrett feud, but I really hope they prove me wrong because I think that these wrestlers have it in them to prove me wrong. I think Hangman versus Jeff Jarrett can be awesome. I just think if it's not awesome, it's going to be a total momentum killer for Hangman. And you can't really afford to do that after you did a good job with the Hangman and Swerve trilogy. So I hope I'm proven wrong. Let me just make that very clear. Yeah, AEW could have easily rolled over in these past few weeks, but they didn't. And they continue to be very entertaining, man. Just when I thought Grand Slam was the pinnacle of entertainment, they tell us that the week after Grand Slam, we're getting Ricochet versus Will Ospreay for the international title. And to that, I say, hell yes. That is how you make me look forward to Wednesday's AEW. When Raw is 3 hours long and I kind of dread Mondays, and SmackDown is fine. I just think, a lot of people have complaints about the storytelling on SmackDown. I'm not saying I'm one of them, but I'm just saying, like, WWE is operating at a very high level, but nonetheless, people are calling them out on some certain things. I called AEW out on some things, but, like, at the end of the day, I look forward to Dynamite. I really freaking do. And that was the case today. That was the case this week. And this episode of AEW Dynamite was very fun. I'm very excited to see what comes of the AEW World Trios titles, what comes of the Wrestle Dream main event. Who will Danielson be facing, Moxley or Darby? A lot of good fun to be had, guys. AEW is continuing to deliver. Let me tell you, if you're not on the AEW train right now, I'm sorry. We're having a good time on this side. Don't get it twisted. I still love WWE. Don't think I'm being a tribalist right now. I'm not. I'm just being positive and I'm enjoying wrestling. That is all. All right, guys. I'm going to get out of here. Listen, have a good rest of your week. Work hard, kick ass, take names. What more can I say?